Monday Night Football, baby. We're here.
Touchdown in 46 seconds. Punches back. Touchdown.
Back on the Rump Here Sports and the Leg Up channel here, talking a little best ball inputs versus instincts. My guy Sackreligious and his inputs versus my instincts here. Sack, good to be back with you here. A little week off or a week apart, but we're back.
Yeah, good to get back on the horse this week. Little hiatus. You had some travel last week, but I feel like we're starting to hit our stride now. Couple training camps have already had people report, so the news is about to start flowing in. It's going to be a very fun next couple weeks of the hot best ball summer.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to get hotter, right? You got teams reporting already, even some vets reporting. And next week, I mean, I think the 28th is like the big day. That's when like a ton of teams fully report to camp is the 28th of July. But I think that's the latest date. So once the 28th hits, we'll have every football team in camp. And from there, it's like you got the Hall of Fame game in like a few days after that. And then preseason starts. And I don't know if you're a preseason. Are you a preseason DFS guy? Are you into the preseason streets?
I don't play a ton of preseason DFS. Usually it's just because at that time of year, I'm going max volume. There literally isn't time to do preseason DFS because I'm trying to get like 50 to 100 drafts done in a day at that, like we're going crazy at that point.
Yeah, well, that's what. And speaking of drafts, we're gonna jump in a draft here. We'll start with the $25 best ball. If you guys want to hop in, I'm clicking in here in a second, just pulling it up on my phone and clicking in now. So if anyone wants to enter, $25 to enter on DraftKings, $3 million to first, $20 million prize pool, and we got 3 of 12 going here. So if any are interested, this is filling fast though, so you might need to click the button quick here. But yeah, we're gonna rip one here, Sack. What's going on? I've seen some news starting to trickle down. People are talking about it a little bit. The first thing that caught my eye today when I was perusing on Twitter was the David Montgomery, Woody Marks little insider comments about that role. And I saw a tweet from Adam Levitan, who's obviously into the best ball streets, and he was like, let's not go crazy with some of this stuff, because for every comment like this, there's the comments. And then he pulled up like old comments of them saying they think David Montgomery is a 3-down workhorse and stuff like that. So pretty much like, don't go crazy one way or the other with a lot of these things, because a lot of it is just, insiders giving their thoughts on what they think is going to happen, but not necessarily like definitely how it's going to go.
Yeah, we've been doing this for enough years now with the Leg Up Rankings team to where we kind of get in a rhythm and we know like how the news cycles play out over the off season. But I'll just tell you, like, this point, right as you're about to have training camp news flood in, but there's also like nothing else that's been happening. This is like peak nothing burger season. So I'll pull up a couple that we kind of shared and chuckled at in the Leg Up Rankings chat. This one, Tet McMillan expected to be used in the slot more this season, per Cameron Wolf. That was also right on the heels of the David Montgomery, Woody Marks expected to split lead back reps, per Slater NFL. There's another like Rappaport one that we shared. I'll see if I can find. But anyway, all of those are basically just like, you are so down bad for anyone to click anything right now because you have nothing to write about, that I'm assigning very, very little weight to this. And it's something where if early in the training camp cycle we get something that corroborates that, sure, then we can consider adjusting. But like, I mean, really for me, if if I'm living in a world where I assign any weight whatsoever to the Woody Marks thing, it's like, well, that's cool. That makes me feel a little better about occasionally clicking Woody Marks later. I don't think it really impacts David Montgomery much at all. And it's like, well, I guess I feel better because there are definitely times where I'm like, we're reviewing the Woody Marks inputs. I'm like, can we nerf this? I just hate seeing this guy. Like, what's a little, maybe a little Keaton Mitchell, in our lives instead of Woody Marks would be nice. So anyway, I'm not really giving too much attention right now.
Yeah, in this draft field, by the way, we are picking out of the 5 hole, which honestly not my favorite spot to pick from, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, it's just a bunch of nothing, right? Honestly, at this point in time, like, let's get into camp. Let's see what's going on with these teams. I'm sure early they're gonna like split reps right in camp and stuff like that. They'll give Woody some first team reps, see how he does, but that not necessarily what's going to happen when we get to actual gameplay week 1. And honestly, I will be shocked if there's any split happening with Houston, if Woody's getting any of the high value touches. Oh, and JSN goes at 4 here. So we get the Puka at 5, which I assume you're into here.
Yeah. What's funny? Puka has been falling like the last, I don't know, day or two because the same photos that already came out from him biting a woman's shoulder just resurfaced and people were like, Puka bit a woman. It's like, yeah, he bit a woman like months ago, man. I mean, but Pat's talked about this and we've all talked about this. The people that we were drafting against back in May are no longer the only people that you're drafting against in these lobbies. There's new people. There's new blood in the streets. And they are learned some of this stuff they legitimately are hearing about for the first time.
Wait until they find out Josh Jacobs' old situation. I mean, Josh Jacobs might become a 6th-round pick. It is funny because that is the truth, right? We are drafting, and those people, we're just going to get more of them, right, Zach? Because it's only going to get busier when it comes to like people wanting to draft best ball and stuff like that as we get into August. You know what I mean? August is the time where a lot of people just like honestly, like most people, they probably draft like 10 or 20 teams, right, Zach? And they're like, I'm going to hold out until we get some news. I see a preseason game or two, right? And then I'll fire out my 10 bullets or something like that, my 20 teams, whatever it is. That's a lot of people right there. So, I mean, that's like middle of August I'm talking about. That's when it really starts to pick up, I think, the beginning to middle of August. So those people are continuously going to trickle in. So they're going to see this stuff for the first time and be like, Puka bit a woman, Josh Jacobs and his crap. Rashid Rice was in jail for a month and was recovering from a knee issue in jail. What are we going to do with these guys?
Yeah, it is. It's funny when you think about like how desperately we've all needed to come up for air this summer, where we're like, yeah, I knew all that. That's table stakes, buddy. Get with the times. And like a normal, well-adjusted person is like, why were you thinking about fantasy football for the entire summer? Like, what's wrong with you?
Because what else are we gonna do for the entire summer? How about that? Okay, the kick says Devin Achane. I'm not big on Achane. I'm definitely bigger on Drake London, Derrick Henry here.
I think it's if you wanted to IKB to London, that's fine. I like him. I think this is like because for a while we were kind of talking about you can take whoever here.
No, we'll take Achane here. My only issue with I love London there, honestly. I think he was the right pick. My only issue is the week 11 bye. They start to get dicey when you're trying to stack up like Rams. And then you're like, oh, I got Drake London too. And it's like, okay, then I don't want to. I know bye weeks aren't that big of a deal, but you kind of can get stuck with there's like week 11 and then I think week 7 where I've gotten stuck a few times with the buys.
Yeah, the thing with Achane is like you and I both were kind of pretty aligned. I think on our first show we talked about this, or one of our very early ones we talked about wanting to get a discount, and he's fallen since then. And then even in this draft, he went, a couple picks past ADP. It's like, all right, this is the discount now, and so that's something where I personally have been really bad at this in the past, where it's like, I didn't like this player before because the price was bad. And then the price changed, and your brain just has such a hard time letting go of like, oh, well, that's not a guy I click actually because the price is bad. It's like, well, the price is new. So you got to reevaluate. And that's why I like having the sidekick, because like there are some players where we won't have changed an input at all. And all of a sudden we start seeing them. We're like, why is that? We hate this guy. It's like, no, we didn't hate this guy. We hated the price. And so
Yep.
just a way to like ground myself to reality and not bias myself against a name that I don't see all the time is like part of the value to me. And I think I'm around like 6% a Chan now. And before I was around only like 3 or 4. So it's coming up as he falls.
Yeah, Devontae Smith here, I think feels like a pretty good pick. Also, Mecca Ibuka, if we wanted to build out a buck stack. What do you think?
I like Devonta Smith. I don't get him as much as you have. And so basically, whenever the sidekick tells me, hey, dude, it's a good spot to take Devonta Smith, I'm never going to IKB off it because I really want to make sure I get mine.
It's surprising because the kick loves some Philly. It just doesn't love the expensive Philly. Well, no,
Yeah,
it does because it
it
loves
likes
Saquon.
Saquon. I think
Yeah.
it's just, you know what it is pre-draft, or pre-NFL draft, the Devonta Smith ADP was like closer to like 4th round, mid 4th round. And then it just shot up so much, even though in the pre-draft we like had a pretty good idea AJ Brown wasn't going to be there. And then he rises and he rises again. And it's just, I also think that the ADP that he has on DraftKings kind of got tethered to where he goes on Underdog, because a lot of the people that are drafting the most volume right now are drafting on both sites. And so they just kind of like, you get this cross site influence where people are anchored to the price on one place. And so it's like, oh, Devonta Smith goes at 28 on Underdog and he's going at 33 on DraftKings. I can take him. Oh, that's a great deal. And so you kind of just get this weird cross pollination thing going. And really, Underdog, prior to the NFL draft, he was going in the mid 4th. Then, without any market adjusting the ADP, when Underdog released their slate for the post-draft contest, they had moved Devonta Smith's ADP up to like 25. They had just manually set it higher. It wasn't the market pricing it that way. It literally was just, hey, someone decided that his ADP should be higher, and it got set that way. And then people get anchored to ADP. And so it's this weird thing where it's like, it wasn't inherently like a market evaluation thing. It was more like an anchoring bias. And then you just end up with, I think, some of that trickling over to DK. But I am glad that we get some of him. I definitely don't want to fade Devonta Smith. I think he's a really good player. But anyway, that's kind of my long diatribe on him.
Yeah. By the way, too, like you were talking about the Devin Achane stuff. Like, I think if I remember correctly, you're right. Like I had him ranked at 20. It was just that there were a couple people on the board that I had ranked multiple spots ahead of him, but legit, I think I have him ranked 20th, and that's where we got him at 20. Josh Jacobs is on the board here. Travis Etienne went, so we'll take Josh
we'll
Jacobs.
keep packing the Jacobs bags if they let us do it. I saw a couple good questions in the chat. Someone earlier asked, what's the mini kick product Leg Up has? I believe they are referring to the kickstand, which is everything that you're seeing on the screen right now for the sidekick. The kickstand has all of those features where it's got the quarterback stack tag, the teammate stack tag, week 17, a bye week overlap, your exposures. The only thing that the kickstand doesn't have is the sim powered dynamic rankings. So the kickstand just allows you to either upload your own custom rankings or have the Leg Up rankings automatically populate, or you can sort it directly by ADP, whichever you prefer. And so it's just a nice little, draft tool that you can use, but it doesn't have the sim powered rankings. And that's available to all base tier Leg Up subscribers. So if you already are a Leg Up sub, you don't have the sidekick, but you do have Leg Up, you're just paying $15 a month or $99 a year for that. You have the kickstand automatically now. All you have to do is go download the extension.
And
that's another good question.
Here's another good question. Cub says, I'll ask one question here. Won't all sidekick users have very similar teams and not be good for GPPs?
So that's part of the reason why we give you a sample of the overall set of sims that we have. That's one of the reasons for doing it that way. Because if we gave everyone access to all the tens of thousands of simulations and said, all right, everyone's drafts gets evaluated on the exact same set of sims, then yeah, you would get funneled to similar teams. But because when JSU is in a draft and I'm even in that same draft, we're going to get different sets of sims. And that's how you end up being diverse, even relative to people using the same overall sims for the sidekick. And there we get a little of our guy, Bashal Tootin. This is a good draft already. I'm a fan
Yeah.
of this one.
Yeah, I am a fan of this draft too, and yeah, I'm glad you hit that question because obviously that I'm sure a lot of people in their head are like, well, what happens if I'm in a room with a bunch of kick users? And it's like, well,
The other thing is, and I've written about this with a couple articles in the past, just touching on it through the statistic of Jacquard similarity, which that's just like a fancy way of saying like, what's the Venn diagram between my team? If you want to sound really smart to someone and you're describing like sets of numbers, you talk about the Jacquard similarity.
which, by the way, when you said it, I in my head, I was like, man, Sack's so smart, like going off right now.
But really, man, it's not all that you're doing is looking how many shared things there are across two sets. And so the Jacquard similarity between two teams of 20 players, like a high number of shared players is going to be like 6. And so any given two rosters, like on a very, very similar set, would have like 6 players in common out of 20. And when you consider all the possible combinations of players that can exist, it's very, very unlikely that there will even be duplicated teams in the contest. So no, I would not be too concerned about that. And again, we do take that into consideration by making sure that we give everyone their own unique subset of sims. So
Copy and paste Slade says, how bad is it to miss 1 week if your players are smash sack? Any quantitative analysis on that percentage advance rate? Man, you're making me work with all these big words. You started saying the Jacquard system or whatever, and then everyone's throwing out these big words.
Okay. I think at first I wasn't grasping what he was talking about, but
Here
I
we
think
go.
he means
Referring to
same bye weeks or
early pick players for X.
okay,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, or like maybe someone who hypothetically we knew was getting suspended. Damn, getting sniped on Tyler Warren's a bummer.
it sucks.
We came up on him a few weeks ago.
Look at the kick is telling me screw Jadarian Price, take Jalen Warren. I'm all for it.
We heard you, you know.
Yeah,
You said,
yeah.
hey. I have been getting some more Price lately though. He's been falling. I don't know how much longer that lasts, but we'll see. But yeah, as far as missing a week from a player early, it's something where we could do like a sensitivity analysis on it in the Sims simply by going in and giving someone a suspension for week 1 or for only week 2 or something like that, right? And so we could quantify that. We haven't gone through and quantified that because the beautiful part of having a sim driven process is that it solves all of that stuff for you generatively. So there's no real benefit. Like from a curiosity standpoint, yeah, that would be a cool thing to spend time and do kind of a study on. What I'll say just from like observation is for example, Rashi Rice is a player where we've had to do, he's suspended. Oh, now he's not suspended stuff a lot over the last couple of years. And I think I'd say in general, the market probably overrates missed time. But a lot of the time it takes like news hitting a second time for that overrating to happen, the kind of like the double counting aspect of it. So like I would right now, for example, we think Malik Neighbors is like reasonably priced. We'll get some of him in the 4th round, but we don't jam him in the 4th round. And I would bet you if Malik Neighbors falls to say the mid 5th after he goes on training camp pup, which we're already expecting is like a pretty likely outcome, I think we'd be pretty into him. And so it's just kind of like that double counting aspect of it. And I do think the market just has a really hard time pricing it. I know that's probably not as clean an answer as you were looking for, but that's my best way to give you the best answer I can.
Yeah. Jalen Hurts here, 77. We got Devontae Smith. Feels right, I think.
Yeah, really like the Jalen Hurts price. Like it even more when I'm betting on Devonta Smith to have a monster season. We were talking about like how big, because we're like a little worried because we're kind of light on Devonta Smith just with where he goes on the board.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, man, it's one where we think the inputs are like, dude, the good seasons for Devonta Smith are so insane in the Sims. They're like he's like live to be, a top 5 wide receiver easily, like top 3 wide receiver, And so we think the good stuff can be really good for him. So we were like a little nervous, like, man, I don't even think like we're wrong. We just could end up getting buried by this guy if he goes nuclear.
Now,
That's the
now,
scariest stuff to me.
now, Zach, question: do you think if Devontae Smith doesn't get the ball the first like 2 or 3 weeks, he is sitting on the sidelines reading a book, or he's bitching at coach/quarterback to get him the rock?
I my vibe from watching the Slim Reaper comport himself over the course of his NFL career, he seems like, especially for a wide receiver where we know they're a little bit more of a mercurial personality type, he seems like a well-adjusted kind of team first guy. Hey,
You
he
didn't
played
want to say
second fiddle.
diva. You didn't want to say diva with the
No,
receivers, did
no.
you?
He played second fiddle to AJ Brown the whole time he
Yeah.
was there, and he did his job. He showed up. Like I didn't really catch him complaining much.
Yeah, but
He put in
this
the
is
work.
his time, Sack. Like this is his. There's no way in his head he's not like in his head looking his like this is my chance. Like I'm gonna
Yeah,
show
I mean,
everyone.
I would bet that he's definitely out for the bag this season,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
He's looking at
100%.
that generational wealth.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking too. But it is funny though, because when I think about the kick, I'm like, man, the kick pushes Saquon, kick pushes Mekhi Lemon, pushes Jalen Hurts. Dallas Goedert, I would say like it's middling to indifferent on Dallas Goedert. Not, I wouldn't say it pushes Dallas Goedert.
I think
Eli
I'm like 5 or
Stowers,
6% on Dallas
yeah.
Goedert.
Eli Stowers, it pushes at the end of drafts. Like Dontavian Wicks, like a lot of Eagles, it pushes. It's just Devontae, for whatever reason, is just not in the. It's probably because you guys are so hot, so much higher on all these other Eagles.
I think the other thing is it's not even that. It's more that it's like Rashee Rice is there a lot of the time. And if you're on the board and you're picking between Rashee Rice and Devonta Smith, it's like, well, man, you're going to be hard pressed to choose Devonta Smith over Rashee Rice a ton. And then the other thing is like, Breece Hall goes there, and like Jeremiah Love will fall to like the end of the 3rd round a lot, and so, which is crazy to me. Also Trey McBride. And so you've got all these other picks that we think are really good. And a couple of them have a tendency to fall, especially McBride and Love. And so I think that's more of what it is.
I mean, that's what we're talking about here, people. You want to talk
These
about
are your
pure,
guys.
You want to talk about running pure, not getting RJ Harvey off the top of the kick and putting Jaden Reed there is what I talk about when I say run pure right there. That's
did you hack into our back end and just adjust the inputs? We got Jaden Reed, top guy, Josh Downs coming up now. Like this is
I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't have had RJ Harvey up there, so I got to get back in there so I can throw his ass down the tube. That it was funny. Someone put out a tweet and it was like every player Sean Payton's called the Joker, and it was like Greg Dulcich, RJ Harvey, and then someone else that I can't remember that sucked. And I'm just thinking like, oh man, don't you dare curse Jalen Waddle like that.
He said it. He said that Jalen Waddle's the Joker.
I know, and I'm like, don't curse him like that. I'm like, don't curse him.
You know who else was a Joker? Taysom Hill was a Joker.
Oh, well, he loved it. I think Sean Payton's favorite player of all time is Taysom Hill. Drew Brees. Maybe.
I don't really blame him, man. Taysom Hill is awesome. Like Taysom Hill is one of my wife's favorite players because he's just so fun to watch. Like the fact that Taysom Hill can literally be in there just absolutely blowing a guy up on special teams. Like he's literally just doing the dirt. And then he'll be on offense. It's like, wait, that was Taysom Hill running a post? What the hell? And then the next play, it's like, oh my God, Taysom Hill just dragged 2 linebackers and a safety, like 5 more yards on an inside zone. What's going on? Like, Taysom Hill's incredible. Like that, he's part of the reason why football is so great, because players like Taysom Hill make it really fun to watch.
You don't have to tell me. I do shows with the biggest Taysom Hill fan of all time in Big T, so he loves Taysom Hill. All right, Harold Fannon's at the top of the kick. We got to fall on Michael Pittman. It's interesting to me that the kick is throwing out Harold Fannin, but I guess maybe we do
Yeah, I
have.
think we got our flex covered with running back. We got
Yeah,
3 pretty strong wide receivers, and it's like, hey man, you're sitting pretty. Don't worry too much about Michael Pittman. There's, Michael Pittman, who Wan'Dale Robinson's available later, and so it's like,
right.
hey, there's similar stuff later. Let's go ahead and get this tight end tier break of Harold Fannin. Otherwise, we're gonna have to like kick the can down to like a Travis Kelce and Jake Ferguson tier. And so
Mhm.
let's just shore up this tight end spot. You got your flex covered now with running back. So I think that's probably what it was thinking there.
Yeah, that makes some sense. Just thinking about it, I guess there is a tier break at tight end, like you said, once you get past Harold Fannin, because like Kyle Pitts, I mean, like Kyle Pitts has shot up the board. I feel like it happened very fast because Kyle Pitts was kind of going in that range
He
where
was.
Harold Fannin was going, and now look where he went in this draft. I mean, he's going 82 overall in this draft right here, and he's in the 80s in ADP, so he jumped very fast.
Yeah. Yeah. The Kyle Pitts rise definitely was pretty substantial. We used to get him
Yeah,
and that's one of the other reasons why someone mentioned like, oh, will sidekick teams all be really similar? This is one of the really big reasons why I like drafting throughout the summer, because there's gonna be stuff that's available in different windows and just the way the ADPs line up.
yep.
And that's a way where you can make sure that you're just getting like a passive diversification benefit without having to do anything. It's literally just, I'm gonna exploit the market all the time. And then whatever is the best decision to make at my pick, I'll go ahead and do. And the market is there allowing us to exploit it in all the different windows.
So the kick saying Dalton Kincaid. We do have the HN week 17 stuff there. So we can click it. I was thinking the Baker Mayfield stuff, but he had the same bye week as Jalen Hurts, and he went pick before us. So
Shout out to our I believe it was Copy Paste Lade that was asking the yeah, who was asking the bye week stuff. Yeah,
oh
that
yeah.
was the one apparently where it mattered enough. And I think he expanded and said like, oh, if you get the 2 early receivers in round 1, like, is that minus EV? And I don't think it's minus EV. You definitely have the sidekick do that sometimes, but I would say the less of a difference there is between the player's skill level and how many fantasy points you'd expect them to score, the more that breaking ties away from overlapping bye weeks happens and matters, at least in the Sims, the way that I've kind of seen them do it. Um, and oftentimes, like, I'll very rarely see the Sims kind of paint themselves into a corner where I take 2 quarterbacks early-ish, before round 10 with the same buy, where my read on that, and again, it's hard to attribute exactly why any one specific thing happens in The Sims. It's all lots and lots of, many, many layers of decisions and things that are happening that make that work. But I think it's to try and help prevent you from forcing yourself to need a third quarterback to cover that buy, where sometimes you'll get a third quarterback because the price is right on him, and sometimes you won't because the room gobbled them all up, and it just never was a good idea to take a third quarterback. So having 2 quarterbacks with the same buy kind of early is something I don't see the Sims do often. I've seen it once or twice, but I'm over 2,500 drafts at this point, so I've seen a lot.
Yeah. Travis says, based on cost, who would you rather build around? Bowers in the second, Loveland in the fourth, Warren in the sixth. We are up to Khalil Shakir. Khalil Shakir over Romeo Dobbs is very interesting, but we will go with it.
Yeah, I think
I'm not a Khalil Shakir guy. You see that 4%, 3%. That's all kick driven right there.
I think we're probably just leaning into, hey, we've got that Dolphins and Bills bet going,
Yeah.
and let's lean into that. But we do think Khalil Shakir is a little undervalued here. I
Yep.
think basically I want to say it was either ADP chasing or ship chasing. I can't remember which episode that or which show it was they were talking about, but I think it was Jacob or maybe Shope that said, if Kincaid's on the field a ton, that's going to be really bad for Khalil Shakir. And I kind of think that's like vice versa as well, where if Kincaid is really limited in his routes again, that probably opens up more slot work for Shakir. And I also do think that there's like a very substantial chance, like significantly greater than zero, probably greater than 10%, maybe 20%, that Khalil Shakir is the best pass catcher on the team. Like he's better than DJ Moore. He's maybe he's not better than Dalton Kincaid, but we see the same thing that we've had with Dalton Kincaid in the last season. It's like, hey man, this guy is so cool. It would be even cooler if he was healthy enough to play football for like the full game, but he's not. So you got to manage him. And that when he's not able to be in there because we're making sure that he's here for the long haul, Khalil Shakir gets in. And so I kind of think that that's an important layer to think through. I want to hear your answer though on the Bowers, Loveland, and Warren thing. Who, if you had to pick your favorites there?
That is hard for me because I'm into all those guys. Yeah, I like all of them. Like it's so hard. It would be between Bowers and Loveland for me. And I think they're both gonna smash. I would probably lean taking Loveland actually if I had to. And the only reason is because I think in the second round there is a differentiation between the second round players that go and the third and fourth, where the third and fourth round players to me are very similar. And I think like after the second round, the next two rounds, I can flip like all those players. And CJ Stroud, I think, is the right pick. I would have went Malik Willis and IK Bede if I had to get him, but he got sniped, so we can't even think about that. But
we
my
cleared you from the volcano.
We cleared you. I would probably I'd probably keep my second rounder, take the tight end in the fourth round, and even though I think Brock Bowers is got the potential to be like the overall wide receiver one at tight end, Colson Loveland I think has potential to be very close to that. Honestly, the way they used them at the end of last year, if that sticks, which I think it does. Honestly, I think Luther Burden's like the splash play guy, whereas Colson Loveland might be the guy that's just like he's sticky, he's consistent, like he just gets you your like 15 to 20, and he's always getting you 6, 7, 8 targets a game, 6 catches.
He's more the engine of the offense.
Right. Like everything's like Luther's the one that's making all the big plays happen. He's opening everything up, but Colson Loveland's like the chain mover, right? Like the Travis Kelce, right? That just the guy who the quarterback leans on whenever he needs to.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think my order of preference would be I'd prefer to build around Bowers first, then Warren next, and Loveland last. But if you want to hear my truth serum, it's like I see the Loveland ceiling outcomes very clearly, and they're obviously very good. I'll let us make this pick before I expand. Yeah, I mean, when the people keep giving you a first round draft pick Omar Cooper here at almost pick 150. But yeah, you're muted. You're muted.
I will just contend, sorry about that Omar Cooper, one of these Jets cannot be good. Or multiple of these Jets cannot be good. They can't all be good. We got 2 Jets who go inside the first 4 rounds, and we've got 2 Jets that were high draft picks, plus A.D. Mitchell, who we all agree, no matter what you think about A.D. Mitchell, we all agree he's very talented, right? Like just on the surface, just like he's a very talented player. Couple of these guys in the back end do not get there if Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall are smashing at their current ADP.
Yeah, I think the price is cheap enough on really all these late Jets, Mitchell, Sadiq, Omar Cooper. for them to all be delivering enough to where you're like, I'm good. I'm like, you look at your teams in the playoff weeks and you're like, oh, nice, an Omar Cooper team, or like, oh, cool, I got a Kenyon Sadiq, and you're not like upset. I think it is possible for all of them to be a fine pick. I think it's very hard for all of them to be great picks, right? I
Let me
think that's
remind you, Geno Smith is their quarterback.
Maybe not for the whole season, but yeah, I don't think that's an argument for it getting better.
Wait, should I go into their backup situation? Should I go into their coaching situation?
No, we should not talk about Bailey Zappi or Cade Klubnik or that's not we don't need to do
all right, we're back up here. I'm glad the kick just swapped off whatever it was thinking here, because I kind of like where it's at now. Aaron Rodgers goes. Jennings has been falling. I think Schultz makes sense too. We'll go Jennings though. We do have two good tight ends already. But you did want to finish
I'll
your
finish that Loveland thought. I
yeah.
mean, you want my truth serum, man? My truth serum is that I'm deathly terrified of being buried by Colson Loveland, because we really liked him as a prospect. We drafted him a lot last year. Like I think he's a good player. Like I see all the upside. Like it's clear as day to me. You know, it's not like I'm like, nah, this guy stinks, he could never do it. It's like, that's not it at all. It's just that I think Brock Bowers and Trey McBride are very, very good. I think it's gonna be an uphill battle for him to clear those guys. Not that it's impossible. I think it's it's definitely something that happens a good chunk of the time, but not the majority. And so when you have that, and then you also have his price, and then I can kind of like arbitrage him with Tyler Warren in the 6th round, or even for like, if I get diet Colston Loveland in Harold Fannin that we got in like the 9th round, that's really more the like reason for fading Loveland for me. It doesn't mean that I'm sleeping any easier about it. Like I think the guy's good. I bet if all you were asking me is, does Colson Loveland have a good fantasy season? Be like, yeah, I think that happens, but that's the tricky part about best ball. It's like, that's not the only question that you're asking. You're asking, does he have a good season relative to the other players in his position and given his costs? Yeah. So that's kind of my thoughts on Loveland. And I am scared of getting nuked by him. I did get a Loveland top guy today, though, I think in the DK Millie. So that felt good. Happy to, sprinkle those guys in.
I think the problem you're going to come across with these Bears in general is they're going to have like one of those schedules where I don't think people really recognize this, but everyone says like the Bears, they have a tough schedule, right, Sack? Well, I think because the Bears are like a good team, they're going to almost benefit from a fantasy standpoint because they're going to be in competitive games. And when Caleb Williams in like competitive game, I like prefer Caleb Williams in competitive games. I prefer him to honestly be losing sometimes, because that's when you'll get like the Superman.
Well, Caleb. That's where they got all the crazy volume. Go look at the Bears games from last year. He had a lot. I think people forget, like Caleb had a pretty, like the majority of his games were games where you were set. If you were playing him in a managed league, you're like, damn it, I started Caleb this week, right? That's the majority of the games. But you get these ones where, like you're saying, they're playing from behind, and Ben Johnson's just like, we got to open it up. Like the only way we come back is Caleb's going to throw 52 times. And when they do that, that's really cool. So I definitely see what you're saying.
And that's really cool for who?
Yeah.
For who? Who's the guy that benefits in those situations? Colson Loveland is the guy that would benefit in those situations, those game types where the defenses are kind of, they're playing back a little bit. They're keeping everything in front, right? Like Colson Loveland's going to be the biggest beneficiary of those style of games, where they're just, passing a lot. And I think that's good for a tough schedule for the Bears. Honestly, it like all makes sense to me. So give me the tough games. I don't care. I love the Lions game at the end, even though it's in the, Chicago, whatever. Like, I don't care. Give me those games. I want the good teams. I want them to play Buffalo or whoever, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I prefer for this team. And they do. They play all good teams, honestly, all throughout the year. They get the Jaguars. Their schedule for the playoffs is, well, week 14, they play at the Dolphins, which is nice. They'll get to like smash a bad team, like a really bad team, but then they play like the good teams, Bills, Packers, Lions, all good teams. I'm into it.
Speaking of schedules, have you taken a gander at the Raiders schedule?
The Raiders schedule. Well, I know they play the Cardinals at the end, but no, I haven't looked at like the full schedule. Why?
Just like the start of the season. I mean, and it's not like, oh, the first 3 weeks are pretty rough. It's like, dude, the first like 8 weeks are just a murderer's row, man.
So they play the Dolphins in week 1, then the Chargers at the Chargers, then at the Saints, then home versus the Chiefs, then at the Patriots, then home versus the Bills, then home versus the Rams. Then they get the Jets at New York. Then the 49ers,
yeah.
the Seahawks, the Broncos. Oh boy.
Yeah. It's like, dude, when is Fernando Mendoza going to get to start? They going to start him, against the Rams? Is he going to have to play against Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald for his first ever NFL game? Like,
not good. That's not good. All right. Gio. We do have Omar Cooper. Yeah, we'll go Gio. How many running backs do we have? So we have 4 running backs: Achan, Jacobs, Tootin. Oh, I guess those are 4 pretty good running backs. I don't think we need to force the
yeah, we can definitely do a hyper fragile thing here.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I was just looking to see what the build is. So right now we've got a 2-4-7-3 build going. We got 4 picks left. Looking, I think we're looking pretty good here, Sack. I think we got.
Yeah, I like this
build
team
out so far.
The man, and this is the other, like, this is the hard part with tight end. Even like, here's my case against Tyler Warren, who I just said I really like at his cost, and I was sad we missed out on him. We miss out on Tyler Warren, and what do we get instead? Well, we get Harold Fannin 3 rounds later, and then we get Dalton Kincaid, and then for good measure, we just throw Dalton Schultz on there, and it's like, man, I kind of like that we ended up getting Jaylen Warren now instead, like, because it's just the opportunity cost at tight end early can be really tough. And I think you need that nuclear upside. And that's why I'd say Bowers is my favorite, where it's like, I'm with you that Bowers could literally lead the league in receptions, like it would not surprise me if that happened. I'm not saying it's he's the favorite to do it, but like, he's live too.
It wouldn't shock me at all. I'm with you. It definitely could happen here. My guy Sam, what's your overall player exposure look like for everyone? Well, actually, the kick can show you as we go through the player exposure. You can see right here. Now it's not like overall, because obviously there's we have like underdog exposure. This is just DraftKings, obviously, but you can kind of see as we go through in some of these players, like the investment that I have and then the percentage right next to it. So, and Sack, same thing. I mean, I could actually, after I could look at the whole ownership, but if you ask me like specific players, I can give you an idea if you're looking for someone specifically.
Yeah, I think next week we should probably do like a exposure review and kind of look at our portfolios.
So I kind of want to IKB to Tank Dell, but the kick is saying Geno. It is 20 picks past ADP.
Yeah, and we got our Omar Cooper guy. In the seasons where it goes well for Omar Cooper, we're
all right.
Let's
do that. We'll take the 20th. I guess we do have Jalen Noel to fall back on if Tank Dell goes.
We did come up, so we were really hot Tank Dell for a while. Then there were some reports that he was a little further behind in his recovery than we thought. And so we came down to be a little cautious. Then the video comes out of him just out there tearing it up, running routes with Matthew Golden, looking great. And so we came back up a little bit. We're not quite as high as we were initially on him, but definitely adjusted those inputs as we got that new information. So we do like Tank Dell. We get him a little more often than we were the last couple weeks, but less than when we were slamming him like 30% or something like that. But I also am glad to mix in Jalen Noel. It's just kind of I think Tank Dell's probably the player I want to have more of. But if that doesn't work out, I really like Jalen Noel as a prospect. I thought he was better than Jaden Higgins coming out of college. So it wouldn't surprise me if it shakes out where Jalen Noel is the guy this season. But I've definitely had to adjust my prior on him from last year, given he had a really hard time getting on the field. But I also don't really know how rational the Texans are at their wide receiver evaluation, given they were playing a lot of Xavier Hutchinson over Higgins.
You know what's funny about that team is their clear best skill players are at wide receiver. Like in my opinion, that team is a very deep wide receiver team, but they'll roll out like the heavy personnel and play multiple tight ends, right? Try and run the football better and stuff like that because their offensive line isn't as good and everything like that, which kind of sucks for guys like Noel or Higgins or both or Tank Dell. Like one or two of these guys are going to get squeezed, but in the seasons where it goes right for Noel and maybe Tank Dell just isn't himself or can't stay healthy or something like that, no Christian Kirk. As long as you avoid the Xavier Hutchinson bullshit that, can occur. I mean, Jalen Noel could smash, so I'm with you. I've been trying to up my exposure to Jalen Noel, and I want to keep clicking Noel Tank like at the end because I do see paths where like one of these guys can get there, makes one of them probably a really good pick, the other one probably not. And I think it's kind of coin flippy. I would lean Tank Dell just because, he's more familiar with the quarterback and CJ and stuff like that. But I get it.
Yeah, I think we're pretty aligned there.
Yeah. It's not something where I want to have like a crazy hard stance one way or the other, but
yeah, that's one of the ones where it's like you get to week 17 and you had like 30% Tank Dell and 5% Jalen Noel, and Jalen Noel ends up going off. You're like,
right.
Well, that's a bummer because I really wasn't that confident one way or the
other. Let's see. Anything else here going on?
Man, we've got a really big Texans and Green Bay week 17 game stack. That's pretty fun.
Who's the QB3 for the Raiders? Mendoza might be in a wheelchair. Aiden O'Connell. Oh God.
Yeah, maybe they just keep Kirk Cousins in there a little longer than we all want, but he's the offering to the blood god to just spare.
I could see Kubiak doing that shit where he just like, nope, I know better than all of you. I'm gonna do my thing, and if that's the vet quarterback, he just had success with Sam Darnold. Maybe makes things work with Kirk Cousins for a little bit longer than we want. I hope it doesn't happen.
Even if he's just like, you know what? There's a good chance that, if Fernando Mendoza doesn't start against the Rams this week, he might never have to play against Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald in his NFL career. And I want that for him. Nope. I don't ever want you to have to face the bad men. So you're going to sit out this one, bud. And, your kids and your grandkids can thank me later when you're able to, play with them and your knees function and shit like that.
That's it. Christian Kirk goes right there for us, and we got one pick left, getting a 3-4-9-3 build. So just like I thought, no running backs, which I think is kind of the right move. The way we positioned ourselves, we got 4 running backs in the first 6 rounds, all different bye weeks. Kind of set ourselves up for it here, Sack, which I do like. Honestly, I know some people don't like it with the 20-round drafts, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the 4 running backs. You got them all different bye weeks and stuff like that in the top 6 rounds. I like those builds kind of honestly.
Yeah, I'm definitely much more comfortable with them this year than I have been in the past. I do think that we're starting, we're talking about heading into training camp, getting news, like the guys that I see here going at the end of drafts, where I've started to have some of them pop up for me, like Jordan James, Nick Singleton, Emmett Johnson, even we getting a little like Sion Vaki buzz. Like,
Whoa.
yeah, like maybe he might have the job over Pacheco. Like, you know who I
Pacheco's
got?
dust, so Pacheco
Yeah,
doesn't have anything. I'll tell you
dude,
that.
you know who I got today that was super disgusting, where I was like, "Oh, what idiot made these inputs that made me draft this guy?" Is I got James Conner in the 20th round, and I was like,
Oh,
"Oh,
okay.
I hate it." But I was thinking through it, it's like, okay, like he could get traded,
You
like
get
there's
traded. Yep.
yeah. So I think I've got a DK Millie team now that's begging for James Conner to, get traded to the Lions and take Isaiah Pacheco's job.
Let's go, Sam. Bobby boys are doing one with you after this one, Jason. Yeah, we're gonna do one more. So yeah, we'll definitely get in one. We need the whole Bobendryer crew, all the brothers in the draft. You don't know this. Sam's got like 6 brothers. They all
Oh
watch
my
our
gosh.
stream, and he doesn't actually have 6 brothers, but there's like 3 of them. And then I think there's one burner account. So there's technically 4. But
Oh,
here
I
they
see
come.
I see Mitch Bobendryer.
They, they
Okay.
they they come out of the woodworks, and I still don't know which one is the actual burner. But yeah, it's a great time whenever I see the Bobendryer crew come in here. We love the Bobendryers.
That's a
Um,
great bit. I love
oh,
it.
it's great. Yeah, it's great. Um, so one guy, Sack, that I'm starting to get 20th round, right? 20th round flyer. Don't go crazy on him, but one guy I've been starting to pull up a little bit and draft a little bit more of. And you can make fun of me if you don't like him, or you can whatever. But Skylar Bell, and here's my take on Skylar Bell, is looking through what the Bills have, right? They go and get DJ Moore, totally understand that. Josh Allen runs a lot, everything like that. I just think Skylar Moore in the 20th, or Skylar Bell in the 20th round, he's got to be out Keon Coleman, who sucks, and they know he sucks. He's not going to work out. People want him to work out, but he's just not going to work out. He couldn't even stay on the field or active in some games. There's issues there. And then Joshua Palmer, who is beyond dust. Those are the guys that he has to beat out to get on the field. I think Skylar Bell is a really interesting 20th round pick. And don't forget, they play the Dolphins in week 17, a bad team. The Bills have playoff aspirations. If they have a chance to kind of like rest guys, give other guys opportunity, I think Skylar Bell is like very interesting to me as a last pick. And Chris Brazel, oh, I wanted Michael Mayer so bad. I wanted him. I still want him, but we'll click Chris Brazel he'll be doing wind sprints all year, but we'll click him.
Now you're talking about Skylar Bell, and the Bobendryer brothers have me thinking about some Bell brothers. These are not actual Bell brothers, but Chris Bell is another guy at the end of
Chris Bell.
drafts who pops up occasionally. Have you gotten Skylar Bell as a top guy yet, or no?
I've never seen him as a top guy yet.
I've
I've
gotten
had
him.
to
I
pull
think
him
I've
up.
got him once, but again, I've done like 2,500 drafts, so I don't think he's a oh, you can't draft him. I think he's one where he's live to be in that list of guys where we
Yeah,
get some news in training camp, and all of a sudden that's like the sidekicks flavor of the week in the 20th round. And so I very much see the thesis with the Bills where it's like, oh, it's a room full of people that are bad at wide receiver and Khalil
correct.
Shakir. Like that sure
Yeah.
seems like a runway.
Yeah, I mean, they play these dusty receivers all the time. It's like, why can't Skylar Bell get a look? I mean, he could easily get a look over some of those guys. So, and it's not a pick. Like, that's not a pick. He's not going to do anything like early in the year. It'd be like, middle to late where he gets his shot in the world that I see him getting the shot. But I do think it's very interesting, 20th round pick. You can pair him up with some Dolphins. I'm higher on some like Malik Willis and stuff like that. So I've been pulling him up a little bit, but here's our team. We are going to do another draft here. So I'm going to pull that one up in a second, but just so people can see, or if you're just listening here, we got a 3-4-10-3 top guy click build here. Sack, what do you think of it? Puka, Achan being our horses.
I really like this one. really happy with how running back fell to us, like getting Jacobs all the way back at 44, and then we get Tootin, one of our favorite guys in the 5th, and then we end up with Jalen Warren, and that's kind of secure enough to just set it at running back, and we're good. So I really like that one. I really like Devonta Smith, the player too, and so the fact that I don't get a ton of him sometimes makes me sad. So getting him and having it be on a good team is always, that's the kind of stuff that gives you the warm and fuzzies.
You're not supposed to tell me the imposter. You're supposed to keep the bit going, guys. Come on. Yeah, no, I do. I like the way this team kind of finished out. I was skeptical when we got the Warren and Hurts. I was like, okay, how's this thing gonna build itself out? And then we did the Fannin and Kincaid, and we passed on a little dip on some receivers. And I'm like, this is gonna be interesting. I do think though the 10 receiver build was the correct way, even though I wanted to click Michael Mayer at the end really bad. I think we needed that extra receiver depth over the extra tight end depth in this build.
Yeah, I agree. Now I pulled up Skylar Bell's week 17 Sims. I just wanted to see what we've got him for. If you were gonna, in your heart of hearts, what's like a 99th percentile outcome for fantasy points? It's week 17.
For fantasy points or just like a stat line?
You can give me stat line. I'll convert it.
I would probably say like a 4 for 70 and a tud.
Okay, we've got it. His 99th's a little higher than that for us.
Okay. What is it?
Like about 21 points. So yeah, like maybe, 4 for 90 and a touchdown, 5 for 90 and a touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can see it.
Yeah, it's Josh Allen. Like we've seen him spread it out before to random receivers.
Maybe a little, 6 for 100, no score, gets the 100-yard bonus.
Yeah. The thing with Josh Allen though is like I have a tough time seeing him like lock in on any receiver. That's just not his
everybody
style.
eats. Yeah, it's the everybody eats offense.
Yeah, it's the everyone eats offense. So that's why I'm like, he's got to make like one big play and then get like a couple other catches. Or maybe like Khalil Shakir's like not in the picture in week 17 for some reason. But yeah, let's pop in another one here, Sack. I'm gonna jump in now. So if anyone wants to jump in, $25 to enter. I'm clicking in right now on DraftKings. $3 million to first, $20 million prize pool here, and it's 3 of 12. So man, that got up to 9 of 12 really fast. So if anyone wants to jump in, probably like one, and it's filled. So there we go. That happened very fast.
They were waiting for us.
Yeah, they were ready to click the button right there. All right, I'm gonna pull this back up because I did it on my phone. All right. Feel free to throw any questions in the chat that you have. Yeah, next week though, we'll definitely, because by then it will be like full training camp stuff. We'll be able to go through all our exposures and everything or just the start of training camp for every team, Zach, and then see how it changes like when we kind of close it out.
Yeah, it's going to be very fun. We'll definitely have some news. The rankings team was already kind of frothing at the mouth. We were talking about like, a couple teams have been in camp for a few days now. You think we'll get anything for Seahawks rookies or 49ers rookies? Like, I don't know. Maybe we have a chance. I thought this morning we might get a little something, morsel.
We'll get something in the next like day or two or something like that. So there's a couple teams that report Friday, I think.
Yeah, I'll pull up the full list. There were a few that, their rookies have already been there, and then I
know it's like half the league reports the veterans at least report the 28th. Like the rookies report earlier, but the vets report like by the 28th.
Yeah, so Cardinals have had rookies in, or Cardinals rookies and veterans were today. Bills rookies were yesterday. Panthers, everyone's reported today. Broncos rookies are today. Yesterday was Texans rookies. Dolphins yesterday's rookies. Patriots yesterday was rookies. And then the early ones were Seahawks were last week. for rookies. Vets are not there yet. 49ers last week for rookies. But yeah, the 28th is where, like you're saying, that's where the majority of vets are coming in. 24th and 25th are also a good chunk.
Jamar Chase. Get my Jamar Chase bags. Look at that. Only 5%. I am very worried about getting buried by old Jamar Chase here. I just don't get the 3 pick very often.
I was looking at my distribution of picks and I'm like crazy under in a couple spots, like just been running really cold over a big sample, like 2,500 drafts. And
that's a lot of drafts.
Yeah.
What do you have for, like, do you know what you have for Chase?
Let me look. I'll find out.
I wonder if you got like a lot of because I think my guy Felix Castro, who actually he won the DK Millie a few years back in best ball. He is just drafting Chase, like he's just pulling Chase up to 1. So he's just drafting him anytime he can get Chase, he's just clicking him, no matter who's on the board. So he's got like 30%, I think, plus Jamar Chase here, which in my head, I'm like, I don't love it, but it actually makes sense to me if your goal is just to like slam a player, like one of those players in that top 3, because you're going to end up like me, where if you don't have the 3rd pick, you're just like never clicking Chase because you're never getting him.
Yeah, that's definitely the only way you're going to get overweight on a player like that. I just don't really want to fade.
Way overweight.
I don't want to fade like Jahmyr Gibbs or
Me neither.
John or anything.
Me neither. Yeah.
Let's see. So for Jamar Chase, I'll look at the regular slate. So on DraftKings, Jamar Chase, I've got 8%. So I'm pretty neutral on Chase there. And then on Underdog, also bang on 8%. So I've been neutral there. Gibbs, I'm running hot. 10% Gibbs on DK. I think one of the ones that I ended up lower, I think I've been running bad on my Amon-Ra. Let me find him.
Can't be running bad on Amon-Ra.
I know. I'm up to 8% now on DK. I was lighter there.
You just gotta start pulling them up. Take them ahead of JSN, Sack. Do it for the people.
Only 5% on Underdog. That's been brutal. That's been a bummer.
He's just a sneaky, like he's a beast in the red zone and end zone targets. Like I know everyone like slot guy, but he's just a monster. They pepper him in that area. So
I love me some Amon-Ra. Yeah, I'm very sad about being underweight on him. I'm hoping that normalizes. Just I had some bad luck on getting draft slots, and hoping that shakes out better. Yeah, I think I'm pretty overweight on. I think JSN is one where I ended up getting a bunch. Let me see. Yeah, I have 13% JSN. I've literally just been getting the 5 spot over and over.
I was going to say, you must be getting the 5 spot a lot. Esco says, "What's up, guys? What's your take on Kamara ADP rise?" My take on Kamara is just like, I don't think Kamara is a guy that the Saints really want in their plans. He's just a guy that they have to deal with because he restructured and everything, and he's there. So they're like, all right, we'll fit him in. But I don't like it, to be honest. So I'm not in on the Kamara rise.
We didn't change any inputs on, because we already knew he was going to be there. Like, they had no real way to get rid of him outside of cutting him.
Yeah.
I like Nico here for sure.
That's a bummer we couldn't get Derrick Henry. I really wanted Derrick.
I know, it would have been a fun week 17, and we don't get a ton of Derrick Henry. I think I'm like 5% or something, it's a little underweight, but I do really like getting him with that week 17 game stack. That's pretty
He's just
fun.
an anomaly too. Like, he is just like that guy that I swear for years I've just like not drafted enough of, and I'm just in my head, I'm like, well, he's going to fall off one of these years. and he just like never does. And I'm like, well, okay, it's going to be this year. And it's like, you just tell yourself the story in your head, but the story always turns out the same way, Sack. And I'm like, I'm wrong every year. I got to stop doing this. I got to stop telling myself this. He's not like a normal human. He's a monster. Oh God, Trey McBride. Oh no.
Can I convince you? Can get that 1% exposure blanket up?
To two? Oh no. Can I say one thing about Trey McBride? Can
Absolutely.
I say that I was 100% right about Trey McBride?
You were very you called the ADP fall.
I'm telling, and I've seen him go like 35.
Oh yeah, I've been the one that's stopping him from going later.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. And it's like, this is my whole point. And someone asked, like, when does normie drafting season start? Like, it's starting. Like, I would say, like,
the floodgates aren't open, but there's cracks in the dam.
Yeah, like I would say once preseason starts is when normie drafting season probably really starts. Is when like NFL preseason starts. That's my full take there. But it's already starting, and the more people start to like get content, see what's going on, hear some takes, right? They're going to start to hear more and more about like, the situation the Cardinals are in and their quarterbacks and Carson Beck, and they got all these other pieces and Trey McBride, just like we talked about with other guys who have these monster fantasy seasons, and then it comes kind of crashing down back to earth, like just back to normal, not like crazy nuclear like Trey McBride did last year, especially at the end of the year. But there was like a lot of reasons behind that. And you can sell yourself a story like that's probably not going to happen the way it happened last year. Like he ran as pure as possible to get that outcome. And I'm not saying that outcome, it's like impossible for it to happen. I just think it's very unlikely because the circumstance will not be the same.
Yeah, we do have that baked into his range of outcomes where like we think Jacoby Brissett is not playing the majority of the time by week 17, and so we've got that baked in where Trey McBride is definitely not, he's unlikely to be as good as he was last year by the time you get to the money weeks. And the Sims still say, yep, and he's a good pick. And so I'm like, okay, as long as I did the appropriate thing with the inputs where I told the Sims, hey man, look out. This is going to get stinky. Like, beware. And they're still like, yeah, don't worry about it, dude. It's still fine at this price. I'd sleep like a baby taking him.
JC, you got to do a countdown next time. I told you guys exactly when I was going to click it, and it was 3 of 12. The key is, though, when I say it, you guys got to have that phone ready, and you got to be ready to click the button. Like, not the button to click the button, Sack. This is how fast you got to be. You got to have already clicked, like, the draft button, just waiting to enter, to click the enter button. That's the key.
Got to have those fast fingers.
Yeah, you got to be quick with it. I'll try a 3-2-1 next time, though.
Someone had a good question about Elijah Arroyo. Do we have any hope for him? He's someone where he's popped up in the Sims in like the last round a couple times for me. Not super optimistic about him, to be perfectly honest. I didn't really love the profile coming out. Did not think he was particularly great. Not a ton of production, really. Like the big, like what you were praying for and hoping on was, oh, he's a really good route runner, because that was kind of the commentary about him at the Senior Bowl. But he wasn't super productive, and he had Cam Ward as a quarterback in college, who, some people would say that's a good thing. I didn't particularly think that was a great thing, but it wasn't enough of a detriment to him, like relative to other college quarterback play. Like I felt like it wasn't something where I'm considering that like a detractor from Arroyo. And so the profile left me pretty underwhelmed, but I was willing to take a shot on it last year. I know the season gets marred by injury, so like I don't want to totally leave him for dead, which is why he does pop occasionally in the 20th round.
What are they? What are you guys looking at my picks? Get out of here. All right, Luther Burden goes, Tedero McMillan goes. The two guys that I wanted, Sack, both went. So we get left with everyone's favorite pick, David Montgomery.
Yeah. Alleged bell cow or alleged, splitting bell cow work with
I'll tell you this right now. If he splits work with Woody Marks this year, he's dust and I'll eat a shoe.
I was gonna say, are you gonna eat your Gronk jersey if you
No, absolutely not. No way. I'll eat anything else but my Gronk jersey. Absolutely not. I have a Sam Darnold jersey somewhere. I'll eat that thing. I'll chew it up and spit it out.
Yeah, I think the splitting work to me is I think that's much more likely in the like Woody Marks comes in to give him a breather, and sometimes they use him
I could
as
see
the
him
passing downs guy.
I could see him splitting third down work.
Yeah. Yep. But also I and don't hear what we're not saying. We're not saying David Montgomery never catches passes. I think that's part of the appeal for I think they're like, wow, a guy that can do both the running between the tackles part that we didn't really have anyone able to do last year and catching passes. Like I do think that is part of the idea behind him.
All right. So Mike Evans goes, Quinshon Judkins, top of the kick, over our guy by Shell too. And don't see that a lot anymore, but we'll take it here. We did the buy Shell too in last draft.
Yep.
So.
This is helping us diversify. In both of our heart of hearts, we're tooting men. Like that's where our loyalties lie. But I don't want to be out in the cold when Quinshon Judkins has some insane season.
So Quinshon Judkins to me, I feel like he's one of those guys. Is he ever gonna get like the 3 down, like passing stuff too? I just don't know if he ever gets that. Which puts
I think it's less like Quinshon Judkins is like a 3 down workhorse. He's getting all the passing work as well. I think it's more like Quinshon Judkins is capable enough to where they're not compelled to take him off the field for every long down and distance, right? Okay. There will be times where, and like, I think there's enough fragility there with how that role shakes out to make drafting Dylan Sampson a good idea as well. Like I like Dylan Sampson as a late pick, where it could be something where your worst fears are confirmed. Quinshon Judkins gets none of the passing work, and you're like, well, Dylan Sampson in like the 14th round or whatever, that's pretty cool now. On a bad team that it's going to be playing from behind and might just have to dump it off a bunch, like that's nice. But I also think you could have spots where it's like, hey, the offense, we've finally sustained we're the Browns, so sustaining a drive's kind of tough, but we finally sustained a drive. It is third down, but we kind of got a little something going for us, and we don't want to we don't want to substitute and give the defense a chance to sub out. And Judkins can definitely stay on the field for this passing down. Like he'll do just fine in a pinch. And also I think you could get into these 2-minute situations where it's like Sampson's probably their favorite to do the 2-minute stuff, but there's lots of backs where, like, for example, Corum and Kyron, a lot of the times you see Kyron gets the 2-minute, but there were 2-minute drills where Corum ended up being the guy on the field. And they're just like, that's it. We're not going to substitute. It's freaking 2-minute drill. Like, and so I think that is squarely in the range of outcomes. And so that's kind of what the upside stuff for pass catching looks like for Judkins, where it's like, hey man, he's competent. He's capable. He's not a total zero, but he's not your, do it all. Like he's not your Jahmyr Gibbs or Bijan Robinson or Christian McCaffrey, where these guys are just racking up the receptions. So I think that's kind of how I think of it.
That makes sense. That makes sense. In my head, I'm just like, man, do I really take Quinshon Judkins ahead of running backs in better offenses with probably better upside for pass catching with like Travion Henderson, Tootin, DeAndre Swift, all running backs that are on better teams, I think profile better as pass catchers. I don't know, like it just feels wrong to me, but I still like Quinshon Judkins, and I still get like mixing him in. Like, oh, you take Tootin a lot, you take Travion, okay, mix in some Quinshon, so you're just not like totally out on Quinshon. But if you made me like fade one guy in that range of those 4 running backs, like if you were like, you can't click one of these guys for the rest of August, JSU, between those 4, I think I'd have to click not click Judkins.
I've got a verbal meme for you. You know I'll let you make this pick before
Yeah.
the verbal meme.
Let's see what happened. Oh, I thought in my head I was like, somebody's gonna jump Jalen Warren. I thought it was gonna be the quarterback, Jaden, but we go Jalen Warren again. Which
I know. I feel like a lot of the time it is Jaden Daniels here, but we're
Yeah.
getting a little diversification. Okay, here's your verbal meme though. It's
Okay.
the bell curve meme, and the left side of the curve and the right side of the curve are draft running backs on good offenses with good offensive lines, and then the
Yes.
mid curve is no, you can't fade Quinshon Judkins. He could be a bell cow for the Browns. That's because normally in the rankings chat, I'm the hey, we should draft running backs on good offenses guy. Like I'm the, hey, everybody, I
Yeah.
know that Quinshon Judkins is, potentially the bell cow for the Browns, but do I
It's
have to
the
remind
Browns.
you all that it's the Browns and they're going to have like the 31st
Right.
best offensive line? So I'm aligned with you on this, but also I don't want to get so indexed to that one thing where it's like, therefore I can never draft him. It's more of like
Right.
therefore this hurts his range of outcomes. And so then as long as I'm doing that with the inputs and the sims are like, I hear you, sometimes take this guy. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do it.
Like you couldn't tell me if I just like ran through like running backs, like a lot of times you want running backs on like you want running backs that are like consistently getting down into the red zone and the goal line, right? Where they have chances to score. You less want the running backs where the teams are like very rarely getting down there, not moving the football as much, not consistent. I mean, does that sound like any team to you? Cardinals, Browns. But hey, it is what it is. Like that is you do want to, when you draft so many teams, if I was only drafting like 20 teams, there would definitely be guys like Quinshon Judkins that I would just say, like, no, I'm not drafting that guy. Like I'm
Yeah,
just gonna
if I drafted 20 teams, I bet you I have like 5% Judkins instead of
right.
like 8%, And then yeah, like with Tootin, then it's like, okay, I probably get my 20% Tootin. And then
Yep.
I also end up having only have like 5% Henderson and I get like 20% Bucky and 5% Swift. But that is why I do really enjoy having a larger portfolio, because I do get to mix those guys at closer to what I think, based on our inputs, the correct frequency is to get all those bets mixed together. Because the other thing for me is like, I like all these guys that I like, where I'm like, oh, I really like Bashal Tootin. I want to have a lot of him. Like, that means I also want to have like a lot of Tootin plus Jaden Daniels and Tootin plus Warren and Tootin plus Price and Tootin plus Pollard. I might even want one Tootin plus Parker Washington team, even though I don't draft very much Parker Washington.
Just to sprinkle it in there for the haters in case that thing
happens. Just a skosh.
Yeah.
And so that's part of it for me too, where like if the sims say that this is a strategy that's going to make me money over the long run, and it's something that I should be mixing into my portfolio at some frequency, like I want to do that. I think that's really the hard part about best ball is you get one slate a year, and you get playoff best ball, but like you get one slate a year, and if you're familiar with DFS, you lose a lot of the slates you play, and so it's the same thing. I always
say it just takes one.
Yep.
It takes one.
Dude, last year let's see. If you took out my best 1, 2, 3, if you took out my best 4 slates in DFS, I had a losing year, but those 4 slates really do a lot of lifting.
That's just how DFS works, though. That's like when people are like, yeah, well, if I pull out, I've heard people use this for fantasy where they're like, well, if I pull out these 4 weeks where this guy scored 30 fantasy points, then he's not really that great of a fantasy scorer. I'm like, oh, so you're going to take all of his good weeks and you're just going to throw them in the toilet like they didn't happen and be like, well, if you take those weeks out, he's not a good player. No, that's not how things work.
If you only look at the bad stuff, it doesn't look so good now, does it?
Yeah, that I saw someone making that case with Luther Burden on Twitter, and I was just like, You can't do that. Like, man, you get some bad weeks. Like, just take those bad weeks. You want to make the case, but like, you got to take all the information. You can't just say, no, I'm not going to take that stuff. I'm going to throw that stuff away and we're going to pretend like they didn't happen and take the rest. That's not how things work. Here's a question right here, Michael. Which projected bottom 5 offense do you think has the best chance to pop to about average? Question mark.
Ooh, very good question. Let's see. So
Let that think for a second.
I'll marinate. Yeah.
Marinate that real quick. And we are almost up here. Oh, baby. You know who I want. Actually, I don't mind either. It's like chicken or steak. Like you can't go wrong, like either way, we're sitting pretty good right there. All right, we'll go Patrick Mahomes, the naked Patrick Mahomes route. But all right, bottom 5 offense. Which bottom 5 offense do you think gets to, close to average?
Yeah, I feel like there's a cheating answer here. There's one that's like too easy. Did you say the Raiders?
It's the Raiders.
Yeah, that's the cheating answer. Let me give you the non-cheating answer.
I was wondering if you were going to even like include them because it's not fair.
Yeah, that's the cheater answer for sure. The non-cheater answer, I'm going back and forth between I'm a little stuck here. I guess I'm going to say it's between the Jets and the Titans for me. And so the like hard part is I think Cam Ward is really bad, but I also think the Jets institutionally are really bad. I'm going to go Jets. I'll expand after we make our pick here.
First of all, I knew you were going to say the Jets. That was like, I was waiting for you to just say that. I knew it was coming. Harold Fannin again. Sure. Why not? Let's take some Harold Fannin. We already got some Quinshon Judkins. We might as well expand our Browns gloves.
Betting on the Browns. Maybe they're the top 5 offense. But
so you said the Jets. The chat rant says the Saints. I wouldn't put them in the bottom.
No, the Saints aren't bottom 5.
That's not bottom 5. Like the bottom 5 for me. I mean, I don't want to take away from you, Sack, but like the teams I'm thinking about in my head, the Raiders, the Titans, the Jets, the Browns, and I mean now well, the Dolphins not last year, but
Dolphins or Cardinals, I think, are your like
Dolphins or Cardinals, I guess, would be like the last 2. Yeah. So like those are the teams in my head. I wouldn't put the Saints in that category though, because I feel like the Saints would be a cheating answer too. If we were even thinking about them. But before I give my answer, do you want to give your take on why the Jets?
Yeah, so I'm pulling up. Let me grab this here.
Because honestly, I don't hate the take of the Jets just because I think the talent and the upgrade, no matter what you want to say about Geno Smith, from what they were throwing out last year, it's an upgrade. So still not good, but
so the Geno Smith upgrade is pretty substantial. I know Geno didn't have his best year last year, but again, remember, like Geno was not bad in Seattle. Like I think Geno is very much a competent NFL quarterback. I think he kind of got a raw deal with the offensive line stuff in Las Vegas last year. So the really the like biggest variable to the Jets for him, because we know they have reasonably talented skill position guys. They've got Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. I don't really think it's controversial to say those are both good NFL skill position players. The vast majority of teams would have a major upgrade at their positions if they had those guys on their team, right? The big variable for the Jets, I think there's 2, is number 1, what does this rookie class of offensive weapons they just invested in look like? They draft Kenyon Sadiq in the first round. They draft Omar Cooper in the first round. That's a big investment. How do those guys pay off? And then number 2 is the offensive line. where last year the offensive line was not great. They had lots of injury. This year, I'm looking at their offensive line rankings in Pat Thorman's recent article. He's got the Jets up to 18th overall, and this is something that I think is super underrated in analyzing the NFL. The difference between being, say, like 32nd and 25th is a pretty big deal. Like, most NFL teams kind of cluster in the middle towards competent. And then you have some outliers where it's what the is going on? Why is this on my TV? Get this off here. Level of incompetence. And that's like the very bottom, like 32 and 31, And then you have, wow, this is the literal best unit I've ever seen play this game. And those are like the top couple units where, like, you get the Texans and the Seahawks defense last year as an example. You get stuff like that. I'll let us make our pick here.
Kincaid there. Yep.
But yeah, I do think that the big gap between going from one of the worst O-lines in the league to a middle of the road O-line is such a monster improvement that as long as the Jets can stay healthy, which that's a pretty big variable for their offensive line here, I think that's kind of the catalyst that surprises us. We're like, oh, well, that's pleasantly surprising.
Yeah, and I can't do the Aaron Jones thing. I think we got to go Baker here. What do you think?
If you want to IKB off Aaron Jones, you can. I know Pat also occasionally likes to IKB off him. I think the
or Dobbs.
I'm fine with either. I like Baker, man. I'm a pretty big Baker stan. The last rankings call we did, I was kind of like pounding the table for us to pump up the Baker inputs a little bit. They were in the defense of the rest of the rankings team, they were probably fair. I just really like Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think Baker's a pretty good bet. A guy that played a lot of the season banged up.
He did.
Honestly, he played a lot of the season banged up. Mike Evans was in and out of the lineup. Jalen McMillan missed a lot of time. There were a lot of things. The offensive line was like banged up at times. Like, there was a lot of things that just didn't go right for that offense as a whole. Bucky Irving was in and out of the lineup. So like the continuity wasn't there. And then Baker's just a warrior. So he just kind of like plays through all these, injuries, and it was clearly affecting him a little bit. And he just, he grinded through it or whatever, which you love to see. But I think you can make the case that was just a tough season for the whole team.
Yeah. I mean, that's what ultimately got Baker to lose his job initially in Cleveland. The guy was too tough for his own good. He played through, I think it was a separated shoulder initially. And when you play that bad, like, the teams will not really care if it was because you were injured or not. So I'm a big Baker fan.
As a best ball noob, what does IKB stand for? We need to, give the people the quick lowdown before we start going with the best ball stuff like IKB. I mean, give the people they got to know what IKB is. Let them know.
We gotta give them a vocab sheet. IKB is I know better or I know ball, and basically, what in the context that we use it, we're talking about, hey, the leg up team put in all the inputs to the Sims, and I disagree with them in this spot. I think part of the whole impetus for this show with JSU is it's spots where JSU might disagree with us, and it gives us a way to talk about what does he think versus what do we think. Because if I were to put myself in the shoes of someone who is just using the sidekick and didn't know what the inputs were, me personally, just the way that my personality is and the way my brain works, I'd have a lot harder time just trusting the Sims and clicking top guy like I do now, because now I can see behind the curtain. I know what the inputs are. I know what the math is that Shady's got working under the hood. And I trust that all of that stuff is correct and that the inputs are very good and they're well calibrated. And we've tested that stuff. And I've got enough confidence to put my money where my mouth is, right? But if I couldn't see all that stuff, that's a whole lot of scarier of a proposition to be like, yeah, just trust this guy on the internet. Like he seems like he knows what he's doing. I get that that's a harder thing. And so I kind of, I'm aligned with the people that are like, oh, how do we know your inputs are good? And so I think that's the reason why I've enjoyed doing this show so much. It lets us kind of talk through where we agree and where we differ on the inputs.
Yeah, it kind of works perfectly because it gives people an idea of just using the kick, and you're like, I'm sure everyone goes through this too, where they're like, oh well, I want this in this spot, but the kick is saying other. I think either McMillan or Diggs is the pick here.
Well, I'll let you do it. We got a couple seconds left.
All right. Well, we're going Diggs. Here's my take, and you can, I want obviously want to hear what you have to say about this, but I think like the time to draft the guys like Diggs is right now because he's gonna sign soon, and when they sign, they immediately go up 15 spots, probably 20 spots even. So like if you're drafting now before training camp where all the news is going to start to pour out, you might as well start drafting some of these guys like Diggs and Debo that you know are going to fall. That's just my take. So like in those spots there where like Shaheed goes, Jaden Higgins went, there were a few like clear picks. Those guys all went, and I was like, okay, there's not like a clear pick. Just give me Diggs. And look, Cooper's still here, which I knew like that was the other potential. Like Diggs would have been gone, but Cooper had the chance of still being there, and we still get him as top guy.
And I think that's a very reasonable reason to IKB to say, hey, I think I can get both of these guys that you have as 1 and 2 just by looking at this draft room and knowing what's available. I'm going to go ahead and try this. The one thing I want to kind of get back to our roots on Steph Diggs. For our first couple shows, we dug into some of our inputs versus instincts a little more. Let's do it here for Diggs. So
okay,
here's I'm going to set the table, and then I want to kick it to you to kind of get your breakdown on it. Diggs is hard to model because what we're having to do is there's a bunch of different possible landing spots he can go to, right? And so we've got to bake all that in the Sims where he goes here, he lands on the Commanders, this is what it looks like. He lands on the Raiders, this is what it looks like. He lands on the Falcons, this is what it looks like. The Chiefs, this is what all these different things we've got to go through, right? And so that makes it a lot more variant to where you're going to have some of those outcomes where they're better for Diggs and some where they're worse for Diggs. And so in your, in your mind's eye, it's week 1 DFS, which, by the way, a little birdie told me we may be starting to see week 1 salaries for DFS as soon as next week. So that'll be pretty
they
fun.
normally come out like around like August 1st or right before it. So
it's week 1 DFS. You don't know what team Stephon Diggs is on right now.
nope.
But what do you think he's projecting for week 1?
Week 1, 9.6 fantasy points.
Okay. You're pretty darn aligned with what we think week 1 looks like for him as well, then. So we used to get a lot more Diggs than where he goes right now. And I think that part of that is, if he's going cheaper and he's projecting for about that much or going to score around that much, that's an okay click right here. It's, probably right around what the other guys in the range are doing. But when he was going later and you were comparing him to like a Jalen Naylor, right? When he went around there, it's like, oh, Diggs is a smash. And so I think I agree with you in the sense of Stephon Diggs is going to go up. I don't really want to draft much more at the expensive price. I'll get him now. And that, like theoretically, I'm with you on that. I understand that. The way that we kind of handle it with the Sims is we don't, even if we know a guy's going to go up, if the price is good on him, we'll take him and we'll happily benefit from that CLV. And if the price is just okay with him, we'll get him. Sometimes we'll mix him in. Like I do get some Diggs now. I just get a lot less than we got before, and it's because he's moved up some. And so for us, it was kind of like, hey, the time to really hammer Diggs was a month or 2 months ago. And now we'll get him some, but we're not going to hammer him as much. And so that's kind of the way I I view it. Let me
Yeah,
look and see. I'm going
that
to find someone who's basically bang on what you're.
that all makes sense to me. I do think though that the whole Brandon Ayuk thing has opened up a new little caveat to the Stephon Diggs stuff too, with like, okay, Brandon Ayuk's might have just nuked his possibilities
He
of,
took himself off the table.
yeah, took himself off the table. So like Washington's way more live. And in my head, like Washington's probably like one of the best landing spots for Diggs because they don't have a guy that can really run the Diggs role. Terry McLaurin's not that same type of guy. They're different receivers. They actually fit, I think, together. They can play two different roles and coexist, and they won't affect each other, in my opinion. And I think it's something that Washington's kind of needed. I'm a Stribling guy here, so
Yep.
yeah, okay. And I think that's something that Washington needs. So to me, like that all kind of makes sense. And I think it makes me feel better about someone like Stephon Diggs, where now it kind of opens up another landing spot that I'm more comfortable with, and could see reasonably because they need another wide receiver. Like,
We definitely have Washington as one of the most likely landing spots for him. And
what's the
so
other landing spots that you guys have? It's like up there, like Baltimore.
Atlanta is definitely live. The Raiders are live, but not super likely. Just based on what they've said, they seem to be content, but
Yeah.
you know, um,
Who knows after they get into camp for a week or two?
right? It
Yeah.
gotta survive contact with the enemy.
Yeah.
Um, let me see some of the other ones that we had.
Couple a couple quick questions here. How do you guys view Higgins, Jaden Higgins? I think Higgins is a good receiver. I was very high on Higgins, but I struggle clicking him when I can get Nolan tanked out like 50, 60 to 80 picks later. But I do like him. I click like Rashid Shaheed a lot in that range. Or I would click him over, I think, Higgins. So that's my issue with Higgins.
Some of the other ones, these are all varying degrees of probability. So, in no particular order, the Colts, the
Yep.
Raiders, the Ravens, the Falcons, the Chiefs, Miami, Washington, a couple other like lower probability ones. But there's point being, a lot of different places on the table. I do agree with you. Washington's a pretty sweet spot, and also the one that we think is the most likely and what we're indexed most to. But we got to keep all the other ones on the table because that is the way you got to do it if you're trying to sim things accurately. If we have an outcome where we're like, no, that's 0% to happen, it actually has to be 0%, has to be impossible, or that is not a good sim.
But but it makes sense to me too. You're like, hey, listen, I was getting Stephon Diggs like 15, 20 picks later. You know what I mean? Like before he got a little bump. So like if you were getting him in a specific range and now you're like, yeah, I got my Diggs bag. Now I'm gonna back off a little bit. That makes sense. I just think this is the last like time you're gonna be able to get
Yeah, it is the last call, probably.
last call. Yeah, exactly. Dontavian Wicks here. Do you have Wicks over Tank Dell, like ranked? Because I have them like neck and neck.
I think they're probably close. I would have to
Close
go into
enough.
the Sims and look. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's basically I trust that the sidekick's gonna mix that kind of stuff up for me. Cause here's the other thing that's like kind of a it it messes with your brain the first time you really think about it. Every draft that you do, you're going to be presented with 20 choices that you have to make. And each choice, you might see a certain choice a couple times, or you might see ever so slightly different variations of a choice. And what you actually want to figure out after we make this pick.
I was gonna say, does it swap real quick? But nope, it sticks to Tank
There
Dell.
we go. Now we get our Tank Dell, which
And
is
we get some
nice.
Tank Dell. There we go.
But every time you make that choice, what you're actually trying to figure out is what's the correct frequency to make this choice when given this decision, right? So, like, hypothetically, if you were, it's easy if you play poker, it's kind of easy to conceptualize because you're familiar with solvers and like the rates at which you should make certain decisions that are, the optimal, unexploitable GTO way to play the game. You can kind of think of this as a similar exercise where whenever you're faced with the choice of, I could pick between, and just to simplify it, Dontavion Wicks, Tank Dell, Ted Hurst. I've got those three guys, and in this universe, pretend those are the only three reasonable choices I could make. There's some person you wouldn't want to take 100% of the time any of those guys over any of the other ones, right? Because in the event where the market decides like, oh, Dontavion Wicks always goes first, if you said, well, I'm going to take Tank Dell 100% of the time if he's there and Dontavion Wicks is there, you wind up with very little to no Dontavion Wicks because the market has told you, well, we take Tank Dell first, or we take Dontavion Wicks first, and you're going to take Tank Dell 100% of the time. That's why you want to mix that up, especially with guys that are close. And then even you will see some stuff that can feel really weird in one draft, just like in a vacuum, where all of a sudden you're like, whoa, Pat Fryermuth in the 15th round, that's way too early for him. Or, oh my gosh, why am I getting Deshaun Watson in the 16th? I can take him way later. And it's like, because sometimes you should be mixing that up. And like for me, I'll see that stuff, a handful of times across 2,500 drafts. It's like, well, yeah, when I really think about it, I guess, sure, sub 1% of the time, maybe Deshaun Watson is the right click in the 16th round. I'm doing, almost 3,000 of these things. Like, I guess that makes sense. And so that's the part where, as a human, there's just no way I can figure that out in my head. Like, it's not a thing my brain's built to do, nor is any human brain. That's why we leverage technology. And so being able to have that framework of the Sims to help us figure out that frequency is part of the magic to me.
Yep. A couple other things here. Tim's talking about if Diggs landed on the Dolphins, you get 8 to 10 targets a game. He definitely get a lot of targets. I don't know what the target share would be with someone like Malik Willis, but there'd be no one to contend with him getting the football. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I think your concern is target volume there. Like how many, or how passing volume, how many targets are there really to even go around?
Here's another question. How is Justice Hill ranked so low, especially with the missile gone? I think a lot of people feel like he kind of fell off last year too, and he kind of like lost his spot at one point for a little bit. I think it's more of that with someone like Justice Hill. I don't know if you have a take on a Justice Hill here. I like George Holani though.
I do like George Holani. Yeah, Justice Hill. I was a big Justice Hill guy for years and years. We did come up on him in the rankings, just getting clearance that his neck issue was resolved because he did have that. I think initially, for me, the like reasonable concern with Justice Hill was he had a neck issue that ended his season last year, and neck issues that end seasons where you don't see a guy come back can be pretty scary, like especially for a guy who's at the point in the career where Justice Hill is. That can be career ending, not just season ending. And so getting that sign of life is pretty important there.
Darnell Mooney at the top of the kick here. Okay. We'll take
mix in a little Darnell
Mooney share right there.
And then the Adam Randall point, I think, is also reasonable. There's a chance that Adam Randall ends up taking some of that work from Justice Hill. We do get him some if he's around in like the 20th round now. He's just really, you want to talk about the problem with Justice Hill is the contingent upside is not there. And
he doesn't have it.
Ask me how I know. It's because I'm the person who had literally the highest dollar amount of Justice Hill exposure across all best ball platforms the year that J.K. Dobbins got injured in the first quarter of week 1. People were DMing me like, dude, you've got to have the shipper. Oh my God, you have so much Justice Hill. It's crazy. and then proceed to watch the entire season. I'm pretty sure the most points Justice Hill added to any of my best ball teams that year, and I had a lot of Justice Hill, was like 43. He had the whole season with J.K. Dobbins out, and the best he could muster across any roster was 43 points out of the running back room. So sadly,
Not a fun
contingent.
click, Justice Hill at times. Owner handpicked. This is true. The owner did handpick Adam Randall. What was he, 5th rounder? Something like that. They gave him like a 5th or 6th round pick, and that was his guy. That was the owner's guy.
Adam Randall is a big boy too. He's kind of fun. He's one where, like, if we got buzz on him, he'd be remotely interesting as like a 20th round dart throw guy. Right now, not really in the mix, but that'd be a fun one to get in training.
Would you rather him than Justice Hill?
Right now, with the info we have?
Yeah.
No, I'd be, if it's, I mean, at cost, it's close. I just probably wouldn't really take any, because like here I see Justice Hill went in the 18th, but you give me Justice Hill in the 20th. I think I've got some Justice Hill in the 20th. So right now it's Justice, but that could change.
Yeah, I'm not really like into either. Like you said, if we get some Adam Randall news, but man, Derrick Henry's just such a beast. Like, I don't know. We need him to fall off, and I'm just done betting against that man in any way, shape, or form when it comes to health. He's just, yeah.
I mean, my Discord profile picture has always been Derrick Henry, the big dog.
The big dog. We got one more pick left here, and Deshaun Watson is still at the top.
It looks very, very scary.
Do we have a quick opportunity to jump in the back end, Sack, and flip that around here a little bit to not get old Deshaun Watson? And
you know what's funny is we do have very significant risk that Deshaun Watson is not playing by the end of the season, or that he's not even starting in week 1.
Chris Bell's up here. I see you, Chris Bell.
Okay.
There's a Caleb Douglas here. Oh, I want to IKB to Caleb Douglas.
Sidekick's already feeling frisky, you know.
I'm IKBing. I did it. Last one. We took it, Caleb. This team needs another wide receiver anyways. We don't need Deshaun Watson stinking it up. I know we have the Browns, but I don't care. We took a Caleb Douglas share here. We needed 10 receivers. Look at our receivers. Oh, look at this room. Outside of Jahmyr Gibbs and Nico, this room, Steph Diggs, Omar Cooper, Denzel Boston, DeJon Stribling, Dontavian Wicks, Tank Dell, Darnell Mooney, and Caleb Douglas.
We have a name for this that we sometimes joke about when the sidekick like attacks a position like this with volume. We call it the army of losers approach. Like sometimes you get the really fun players, and sometimes you just get the army of losers.
It feels that way. But we got Trey McBride. We did the whole like running back thing after the Trey McBride pick. And then we took 2 more tight ends after the Pat Fryer move. So we went a long time. Look at that. We went a long time without wide receiver. But I guess it's
we're like, hey, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, that's figured out. Now we got 8 more darts to figure out wide receiver 3. Someone will figure it out for us.
Figure it out for us. Maybe we get a lucky week or 2 where they get a flex. We get a flex receiver in there. But we have 3 good tight ends too. So I assume like in a lot of our winning builds, actually double tight ends hitting.
Yeah, I definitely think that we attacked the flex through tight end and possibly running back here. And then just having this sheer volume of receiver, like you can definitely end up with some spike weeks where, and we've got some pretty fun rookies too, and an upside bet with Diggs where it's like, you know, army of losers was a little derogatory for some of these guys. But, you know, when you get down to the very end, I mean, shoot, like there's an outcome that seems pretty reasonable to me where it's like Steph Diggs is, you know, scoring 13 points a game, and Tank Dell is back and he's looking like prime Tank Dell or maybe 90% prime Tank Dell, you know, and those guys are just like, oh yeah, if we were going to redraft the season right now, they'd go in like the 8th round, and we happen to just get them super late. And so I do like our potential to fill out our wide receiver 3 and possibly our flex spot there.
Yeah, that's kind of why though. I was like, just give me the extra wide receiver. Screw our, quarterback 3. That's gonna probably play like 8 weeks, and then give the reins over to Shador and stuff like that. Like, I don't want that. Give us another bullet at receiver, and I'll take my chances with this team because we have two, in my opinion, pretty good receivers. I mean, Pat Mahomes can hold it down for us. Baker Mayfield can give us some big weeks. So I was more worried actually about that third spot than I was getting the floor of a third quarterback, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I definitely can see that, and I will never begrudge anyone for not wanting to draft Deshaun Watson.
I had to keep up my zero exposure to Deshaun Watson.
You're a principled man.
I'm very I'm very principled here. Mitch wants us to check out his team. We can check it out real quick. Chad Candles says, when the kick builds 9 to 10 receivers, do you think it's cobbling together a ton of middling scores, or is it that they are likely to find 2025 Michael Wilson in the lot?
I mean, I think it's probably a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. But if you go and look through like what a distribution looks like for these kinds of wide receivers that go later, might be the kind of guy who only puts up 500-600 yards in a season. But if you look at what that distribution looks like on a week-to-week basis, like it's not uncommon for there to be one or two spiked games in there where the beauty of best ball, I don't have to know when it's happening. I just had to allocate that amount of capital to my team and make the correct bets and let the chips fall where they may. And so I think that it is important to get like that mix of players where you can get that big breakout potential. So we've got those rookies and we've got those like underpriced vets with warts like Steph Diggs. He's not on a team yet. Oh, could be scary. Tank Dell hasn't played football in 2 years basically. That could be scary. So you've got kind of that mix of players where you have access to the upside, and then you also just have like, hey, this guy's gonna play NFL football this year. Sure, So I think that's a good blend to have there.
All right. So Mitch's team, he got started 10th pick overall. CeeDee Lamb, Kenneth Walker, T. Higgins, Travis Etienne, ETN, whatever. I like that top 4. It's a nice it's a fun
I dig
start.
the top 6. He's cooking here.
Yeah, Tyler Warren, Joe Burrow. That feels like a good start. Then he goes QJ, Kenny Gainwell, Blake Corum. Kenny Gainwell and Blake Corum, he did kind of go and get those guys, but those are guys I'm kind of in on personally, especially like Kenny Gainwell more on DraftKings. I think he like fits the mold. And then I think Blake Corum has one of the best like contingency upside, like as a running back that goes in the hundreds. What's a better team to attack from a run game system than the Rams? Like, give me the Rams system. And like I keep saying, if anything happens to Kyron, Blake Corum just like you think about it from a DFS standpoint, like Kyron goes down in week 8. Where does Blake Corum get to in the next like 3 weeks?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, he slowly goes from like a 5K running back to like 7K in 2 weeks instantly, just like that. So absolute smash pick. And then he goes Worthy and Coker, who I don't mind where they're going, where they're picking. Sam Darnold, Sadiq, who I know you guys are kind of into the Sadiq stuff. Mendoza, Gunnar Helm. So he kind of took like the late tight end strategy. AJ Barner, Pat Fryermuth, Elijah Surratt, Damon Claiborne, and Andre Yoshivas to finish out his Joe Burrow stack. So we got a little week 17 correlation with the Surratt stuff. He got Coker with Sam Darnold, and he got AJ Barner. Did some good job, like backstacking a little bit too.
Yeah, Mitch, I like almost every pick on this team. I don't like your 7th round pick or your 8th round pick. And other than that, I mean, I don't take a ton of Claiborne, but he has popped up as top guy for me. And I don't take a ton of Yoshivas, but he has popped up as top guy for me. And you got the Joe Burrow thing. So I mean, my only complaints are Quentin Johnson and Kenny Gainwell. Other than that, no notes, man. Looks like a solid team.
You just don't like Kenny Gainwell because you're into the Bucky Irving stuff, and Kenny
I
Gainwell, if he smashes, in this pick, your Bucky Irving stuff is
Oh,
dead.
that'd be bad. Yeah. You
Yeah,
know what? If you gave me Kenny Gainwell in the 11th or 12th, I'm probably about it. I'm about that
I
life.
I think like Kenny Gainwell probably should be going in like the 9th or 10th. So like the 8th might be a little early. Uh, but at the same time, I can contend that he was just better than Bucky Irving last year. If you look at all the numbers, like he was just a better running back. And what if he's better than Bucky Irving this year? Just saying, like maybe Bucky was just hurt though. Maybe he was just hurt and it took a while to get back and Bucky will be fine. But I don't know. Kenny Gainwell, he's a good running back. I think you're discounting him a little too much, Zach.
I'm not saying he's a bad running back. I just think that Bucky is pretty good, and I think Gainwell probably ends up with a role that's a lot more similar to, like, I think this price is basically saying it's more of like an ambiguous backfield, and it's like it could be Bucky is the one, it
Yeah.
could be Gainwell is the one, and that's where I don't buy it. And if I'm wrong, that's going to be pretty painful because I got a lot of Bucky, but I, but if that's your thesis, if you're like, hey, this is an ambiguous
I
backfield, I'm gonna
I
play
think
Kenny
I think
Gainwell.
that's
I
the thesis.
understand that thought process. It's just different than what I believe, but that's okay. It takes
Uh,
at least two to make a market.
I've actually heard multiple people now say, I think Kenny Gainwell might be better and might eventually win the backfield over. So it's definitely something that I've heard be put out there. So it's not just, you know, oh, Kenny Gainwell was better last year. It's not just that take. I've seen people take it a step further and be like, no, he's just better. Like he's better, and he's gonna prove it. And then eventually you could see roles kind of change a little bit, where Bucky's not just that clear number one. But we'll
Yeah,
see.
I
We'll
think
see.
I'm more of like the worst case scenario is that it's kind of a 1A 1B split where you
Right.
get a lot of Gainwell, and
Which would
that
still hurt Bucky. I
it would
think we're
hurt Bucky, but I'm more along the lines of like I think the upside's kind of capped for Gainwell, except in the contingency stuff. Just because I think it's Bucky's going to be a hard out is kind of my point. Like that's
my
a
my point is I think they're going to play in a ton of shootouts, and I think Kenny Gainwell is going to fit a lot of game scripts. And we know a lot of times it's game to game dependent, based off of what they're running out there, the play calls, the formations, everything they got going on there. And when you just have like a bad secondary but a good front, which the Bucks do, it kind of lines up for your defense to just get thrown on a lot, where teams just like, no, they can stop the run. We have to pass. And it sets up for these really fun back and forths where teams are just throwing all over the field. There's less running going on, which means the clock isn't just turning every second. And that's how you get the good game script setups for like the game stacks and everything like that. And those are the games that Kenny Gainwell can smash in. I think the Bucks play in a lot of those games.
that is very fair. They could both be very fun this year.
Yeah, they could. They definitely could. But yeah, this was fun, Zach. Another show in the books here. Great time here. Make sure you guys smash the like button on the video here, whether you're watching on the Legendary Upside channel on YouTube or the Run Pure Sports channel. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I know you guys put out tons of free content throughout the week on your channel. We've got a ton of free content on our channel. So make sure you subscribe to the channel as you get notified when we go live for free content throughout the week. Zach, you got anything else going on this week?
Let's see. We've got the kickstand officially released. Pat sent the email out about that. You can head over to legendaryupside.com/kickstand and check that out. Available to all base leg up tier members. And of course, check out the sidekick over there at legendaryupside.com/sidekick. We're into the home stretch of best ball drafting summer now. So Yeah, just putting my head down, getting my teams drafted. Think I'm gonna be Mr. 3000 this year.
Mr. 3000 this year. I am I'm hoping to get to half of you. If I could get to like 1500, I'd be pretty stoked.
I
I'm at
believe in
like
you.
you believe me? I'm at
Mhm.
like 700 right now. I'm using my kid as an excuse for why if I don't get to 1500 for why because it's a lot harder to hold an actual human while multi-tabling drafts nonstop.
I
But
couldn't imagine. Yeah, you're on hard mode, dude.
yeah, you got to do what you got to do sometimes. Sometimes you got to just teach him how to click the button. I have the trackpad and he's just like, every once in a while put his hand on, he doesn't even realize it, but he'll put his hand on it, he'll just hit it. I'm like, sure, all right, why not? That guy, So
So that's how
it's
you
fun.
got that 1% Trey McBride earlier.
That's how I got the 1% Trey McBride earlier. It was his fault. I blame my son. Yep, 100%. And that goes for anyone else that I told you guys I'm fading that I have 1% of. Okay, I'll just throw that one out there. But yeah, no, I got a show tomorrow. I'm going to be on with Felix Castro on this channel, 8 p.m. or 8 p.m. whenever I go live tomorrow night. So we'll be back on drafting some more on DraftKings. So check that show out. Me and Sack will be back next Wednesday. We'll do the whole exposure thing. We'll go through all our top exposures, guys that we're super low on too. We'll go through the whole field, Sack, so people can see all the positions, where we're at, where we're different too. We can kind of show off where we're definitely different from like the standpoint. I'm sure we're going to have some very different top guy exposure.
Absolutely. It should be
Yeah.
a good time.
Yeah, it'll be great. All right, guys, that's going to do it, though, for this edition of Inputs versus Instincts. We'll see you guys next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, for Sack, I'm JSU.